This is Formula V. The idea is to have the advantages of open wheelers, but at the budget of a very cheap everyman car price. If you have a look at Formula car prices that are up for sale, generally the Formula V are always going to be some of the absolute cheapest. Here's the problem. The cheap everyman car that this was based upon, well, you know, it's getting on to be about, get close to 100 years now. Parts are not so easy to come by. Now, yes, it was made up until 2002 in Mexico and whatnot, but that still doesn't mean that the parts are readily available, because that means that this car that is very old, the newest parts are still 22 years old now. So it's not a very cheap budget way of entering into Formula racing as much as it once was. Now, that's not to say that I don't like Formula V. In fact, multiple times I have made mods for BeamNG around Formula V cars. The price, unfortunately, is not the only downsides of these little beasties. Other problems include the fact that it's, you know, not very fast. And two, that suspension on the back there is what's called swing arm suspension. We're not going to get too technical here, but it's got a thing called death roll. You know what? Actually, I can't back that up. Here's the crux of it. The suspension is directly connected to the wheels, and the more the car leans over to one side, the more disadvantage you have when it comes to the camber angle or whatnot. Things get a little bit screwy. There's a reason why it hasn't been used in a very, very long time in a newer car. But the advantage for back in the day was the fact that it was cheap and easy to make, which is why it was used for the Volkswagen Beetle to start with. So, what's my cure for this? Well, my solution is actually not unique to me. Here's one such example. They went with Formula Ford, where they use a Ford engine instead. And hell, even somebody has already done a Formula Ibisu. My problem with this, however, is the fact that they've gone to the really expensive task of turning the engine to be longitudinal. This is where things get a little bit tricky, because if you want to have an engine and then the transmission right behind it, well, you're going to run into a few issues. Let's roll over a longitudinal engine. For one, you'll notice that the gearbox is incredibly long, and then there's this pesky drive shaft in the middle, meaning that if the engine was to be in here, you'd have the transmission, then you'd have like some sort of drive shaft, and then a transmission, then the engine, and the driver would have to sit over the front axle or have a really long vehicle, which is not particularly good for these sorts of situations. For one, a shorter wheelbase vehicle will be able to turn a lot easier, which is something you want for a race car. And two, having the person be further away from the rear axle means that whenever the vehicle starts to slip out, you're going to be further away from that pivot point, which means you're going to get less feeling, and is actually something that a lot of F1 drivers think that is very key in their F1 cars to be able to drive better. So, front engine longitudinal engines which might be cheaper and easier to get a hold of, no good. What you're going to want is something with a transaxle. Say, for instance, a Civetta Bolide. Can anybody, though, see the problem that we have here? Yes, this is goddamn expensive. So, front longitudinal, no good. Mid-longitudinal, usually very expensive. So, what's the other options that have transaxles? Actually, pretty much every budget car has this. Let me roll one over. What most of you have probably expected, though probably not everyone knows about this, is transversely mounted engines. This allows a very tight, compact situation, and then you've got your drive shafts. This is actually something that I showed in a video once. What I did is I took the engine and transmission that was in the front and basically just offset it to be in the rear. Now, we could do that just again and then have the engine be in the rear like this. I mean, it's super simple idea to do, except for the fact that the 3D modeling on that really sucked. But I want to try something a little bit more interesting this time. I'm going to use a car that I don't like at all. The Chariot. So, why would I go to a more expensive newer car? Well, for one, as we go into the future, like long way into the future, it's going to become a lot cheaper, but also not be so old as a car that's already old and then gets older for the part to become more expensive. You get the idea. Abundant. But also one other thing. It has a 5-cylinder. Now, a lot of you may be asking, why do you care about a 5-cylinder? What does that do? Well, for one, I like the 5-cylinder, and that's all I've got. But no, seriously, I do actually like the 5-cylinder. It's something which I'm kind of disappointed only shows up in this car. I don't like the Cheria. It looks like a weird crossover sort of thing, and I don't like SUVs and that sort of stuff. So it's just never really interested me, aside from the fact that it's also, in my opinion, a little bit ugly. It's not particularly pretty. But here comes the other question. It's clearly a much wider setup than what we got here. Do I make a new body to fit this in, or do I just try to come up with a new way of doing this? Not to mention that this has radiators, and this is air-cooled. I think at the very least we could probably stick side pods on to make it fit a little bit easier. It's also going to become a lot, and I mean a lot wider than what this is, because no way. In fact, let's line it up. As you can see, the engine itself is going to be wider than the body. The wheel offset, though, is going to be wider. I suppose it's not going to be huge, but we'll see how it goes eventually. By the way, if you're wondering about the video where I made the Formula B, I'm going to put a link in the description for that. Let's go ahead and modify my old mod, and this is going to be i5 mod. Subfolders and directories just to keep things a little bit cleaner and neater. Now, let's open this up in Blender and delete basically everything we don't need. I'm also going to go with a race suspension and not the default road suspension, just because, one, the parts are probably available, and two, why wouldn't you go race anyway? We're also gonna run the radiator and intercoolers differently. I'm thinking we could run like a radiator on this side as a pod, and this side the intercooler as a pod. I like the idea of side pods. I suppose the only modifications I need to do to this is to deselect that, grab this, and then just delete it. I think that's all we need there. Then when it comes to these parts, these will be moved into a place to fit as well. The exhaust, for now, you know what? Actually, we don't need. I suppose now's the time to import the old Formula B, and, oh, actually, that's pretty darn close. I should probably also drag in the J-beam. Let's go into the engine, and let's get rid of all of the things we don't need, and move it into place. This is going to get quite tricky. Radiator comes out here. We're gonna go like a narrower and a longer one, but we'll figure it out because it needs to be thicker and chunkier. Then we'll do the same to the intercooler. Could I maybe turn the manifold around? Then the turbo will come out this way and then very short distance go back in, and then I'll just move this to the other side. And I suppose actually that wasn't too difficult to get right. Now I just have to create a new body and chassis. You know, basically the crux of what this is. Now, I'm not going to redo the front suspension because the idea is that the engines and whatnot are the things that are becoming expensive. The front suspension, I mean, you could just keep it going, and we're trying to do more of a retrofit than anything else. There is no restriction on how the bodies look for Formula V, so I could probably do this. Let me show you what I mean. If I just go here, delete, it kind of works, and then we'll just put the side pods on.
2 hours later.
That's actually starting to look kind of alright. Okay, pod, not such a bad idea. Okay, well, that's not a good, yeah. Oh, and I went to all the effort to make these pipes line up. Now I'm going to have to redesign everything again. I could make the things pinch a little bit, but I think we're alright here. This, let's make that meet in the middle. Yeah, now it looks like something that's kind of bolted on. In fact, actually, you know what? Let's move this out a little bit, then move it up a little bit. Make that like a massive crease. Mark these as sharp. Make some cylinders. Give them only 6 edges. And hey presto, we have a bolt holding it on. In fact, actually, you know what? This would probably be pot rivets, not bolts, but you get the idea. We also don't need such a long exhaust. So let's, like, grab all the way up to you and delete. Perfect. Yes? I like it. Is that everything? I think we're done. Like, I feel like I'm forgetting something, but I think we're good. So I'm just gonna go ahead and export it. And before this is selectable, I just realized we're gonna need to grab the chassis, make a duplicate, call this like the i5 space frame. Then here's where we start changing. Let's grab the engine, grab the name, which is Vivis Engine, and plop it in there. Okay, now this should be selectable. That was wrong. Engine, okay, goes in there. There we go. Fuel tank should be fine. Suspension is going to be different on the rear. So let's open up our new suspension area, copy the name of this, and paste it in there. Now I know that this says F, where the last one said R, but because it's not the same name as this one identically, it'll be fine. Everything will work out the way we want it to. I hope to God. Body panels. All right, well, we're gonna need to grab another one of these, aren't we? Put the new part in here, then it's this. Chassis, space frame, i5 space frame. Come on. Ha. I suppose there was a few mistakes that I've made. This does have wheels and they have it offset. Okay. Frick. Where's the normal position? Import that suspension. And how far back is this? Looks to be about like 2.3-ish meters. That means, oh God, plus 2.345, 1.003. Now, will these wheels on the front here move into the right place? Why are things being such a pain in the... Oh, you know what? I bet you a lot of the nodes here have the same name as the suspension on the front, so that's a problem. All right, let's go through and change all of the names. Now, when we refresh... Ah, yes, I may have forgotten to attach it to our vehicle. What is happening? Well, I've never seen an oil spill before in BeamNG, but I'm assuming this is what it looked like. Refresh this and unpause. It's looking good enough. All you have to do is put an engine in now. But we have the engine slot. Please. Oh, so close. And the engine mounts. Oh, you know what? Actually, we don't need engine mounts. Because remember how we said that we're going to have the engine be a part of the stress member stuff? We're just going to connect this right to the frame. Good thing as well, because there's only one engine mount, so that was going to be problematic. What are we going to attach all of these to? I'm thinking like... This is a bit hard to see. Rear suspension, goodbye. Body panels, goodbye. And these are the nodes we can attach to. I suppose we're also going to attach to the suspension, so yep, sure, whatever. FR13, FR13. Duplicate that and make that to the left side as well. And attach everything else. Put the engine back in and... Much more solid. What is this? Oh, that's exhaust stuff. Transaxle. And... Ooh, which one's going to be stock? By default, 7-speed dual clutch trans... Okay, I feel that that's not going to be the stockest of stock. It comes with Sports 6-speed manual. So I think I could also go just a normal 6-speed manual, but we'll go Sports 6-speed manual. 6-speed manual? No. Sports 6-speed man, there we go. Okay, everything else can go away. But you know what? We might hold on to the DCT as well, just in case. For now, though, let's put on the rear okay, what? Rear suspension now doesn't work. Why? You know what? It's probably because of that? Yeah, no, okay, well. Oh, it's because I went through and changed all the names of things, so I have to change the flex bodies. I initially changed this because that airbox was drawing from other models, so if people spawn them next to each other, it'd be a problem. But now I have to go through and change every flex body section. Now we bring in the N-Guy. Perfect. Does it drive? No. Transmission, please. Let's go the manual transmission. Oh, don't tell me. Yep, I need a transfer case. Front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive rail. Okay, perfect. Just need that one. And we can put it in the transmission section. And now if we refresh... Okay, I don't see a transaxle. I mean, it's got the front-wheel drive output shaft. It's just nothing's showing up. Why? Front air, front rear, front coilover. Where's the diff? There is no diff in the slot section. Wait, I'm confused. If we go down to the front suspension, there is no front diff here. Okay, that's weird. Engine, transmission, front differentials in here. Let's just drag the whole thing in. You know what? It's probably trying to attach to the wrong thing. What I actually want is a rear differential, isn't it? Yes. I think what I need to do here is change these up, which I could just grab from a differential rear. Refresh. Oh, and it drives. Perfect. Okay, well, that's a problem. I forgot. I had steering on the rear that I need to lock off. RH3 gets attached to something like RX5. And the only thing I need to do is change this to an X, and it's done. Now, the steering is all good, except doesn't want to change gears too easily. The body is like incredibly wide. The shock tops do not look like they are properly supported. And we get so much goddamn understeer because this thing has a huge disparity right now. And also, those rear axles no good. We once again have to change the flex body names. Easily done though. Now, if we do a little refresh, there we go, drive shafts. I mean, we've got a little bit of jiggling to fix, but we'll deal with that. I think we just, for now, we want wider front tires. Maybe? Not actually sure. Wait, oh, it's a front-wheel drive now? Perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. Why is it front-wheel drive? Come on. Now, what are the chances? That is on the rear. Perfect. And I gotta say, I reckon it kind of looks pretty wild. I gotta do something about this strut brace being pretty weak looking, but that is pretty awesome. Oh my god, it's very oversteery. It might need a rear wing now. I'm gonna have to do probably like 2 tunes of this. One with the suspension set up for controller, one for set up with the wheel, because I'm getting the feeling this is gonna be very different between the two. Oh dear. Yep. And we also don't get a lot of the death roll, which is a problem that you would have with the normal one. So it's going to be a very interesting vehicle to take around the test track. And before we go on, 2 things. 1, I'm going to have to move this. And 2, why are the needles not showing up? That's okay. That's a thing that's happening. Now, unlike last time I took this thing around, I now have my shifter here. So, with my new setup and new rig, we're going to do it properly manual and see if I can actually do a decent job, which I probably can't, but I'm going to try anyway. And I've also done absolutely no tuning whatsoever. So, my seat position is too far forwards. Oh my god, okay, and I'm learning a lot. Because at the moment, okay, the gauges are disappearing. Also, the RPMs do not go high enough. They only go up to 6,000. This new engine goes much higher than that. And one-handed driving, not great. Okay. What actually was the last time? A 151? Okay. I think that's a pretty obtainable time. All I have to do is just concentrate a lot. I don't want to move to paddle shifters, but I might have to. We also don't have, like, the biggest of... Oh, okay. Yep, no, I'm learning everything. And the camera is, like, really, really wayward. Did you see that? It was, like, way off to the side. Alright, you know what? I'm giving up. It's been so long, and I just haven't been able to figure out what the problem is, but there is something broken with the suspension that means that just randomly, arbitrarily, when speed starts to go up, the thing just starts oversteering. And I don't know why. The only thing I can think of is to put a wing on, but that's the only thing I haven't tried yet, so I don't know. Instead, what we're going to do is just take it easy and just finish a lap. Maybe I'll do a wing mod in the future, but for now, I don't care. If you want to go take one of my mods and do anything to it, that is absolutely fine and up to you. I don't mind if people take my work. But look at the amount of toe in. I'm trying so hard to keep this thing under control. Probably having a turbo on this thing, not the best idea. But then again, there's not a naturally aspirated version, and I don't want to go through all the effort of that. Maybe one day you'll see a video pop up that says, I fixed my i5 formula car. Maybe. Okay. This time, we're gonna take it a lot easier and ease onto the power a lot more. Slow down. Oh. It's amazing how it locks up on the front, but yet we'll still have a lot more. What is happening? All my braking points are off. I feel as if... Does it have more power? Nope, stock turbocharger. The long block is because the thing needed to have just a better ability to take RPM. Alright, let's try those again. And there's just some sort of like I've looked at the suspension doesn't move, but something is wrong. Very, very wrong. Whoa, hello. It just darted to the left there a little bit. I don't get it. Something is broken. Okay. I think I've come to realize that a lot of the problem is probably actually due to the extra weight and torque. Maybe just twisting the entire body, which is then playing on the front suspension. Because it seems to be like under braking is where it's most happening. And there we go, a 146. God damn, that sucked. I hate this so freaking much. That is an atrocious vehicle. I don't... I'll try to fix it before it goes live, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to. There is something fundamentally wrong about this. But hey, at least I bit the old one by 5-ish seconds. Woo! Well, that has been a complete and utter nightmare. I don't know what's wrong with it. If I do make it better, which I've tried so many different things, you know what? Maybe what I'll do is I'll just attach the entire chassis and the rest of the suspension. I don't think I have everything attached to the suspension right now. Attach it all to the engine, and then the engine can be just like the untwistable device. And I'll put like a whole bunch of torsion beams inside the engine so the engine can't twist and contort as well. Because at the moment, there's something seriously wrong and I can't figure out what it is. I don't want to put in new suspension because that is a whole new level of nightmare that I don't want to deal with. But you know what I do want to deal with? My channel members. You guys are amazing. Just as amazing as this thing is actually about to do. 400 plus kilometers an hour. I swear it is. You can't see it right now. Hold on. Give it a second. It'll get there. What the? There we go. There. So it's about to go like absolutely bonkers on speed. It is so weird that the thing can go so fast, but I suppose it's to be expected. I didn't shout out my main channel member, and that would be my top tier channel member, which is the Rogue Tick, the Crayon Priest. I swear I am not terrible at this, but apparently I am. There's all the evidence. Yep, that happened. For now, though, I'm gonna let you guys enjoy the sound of this, like, kinda mini V10 sort of soundtrack that this thing will be creating. Because, you know, it's a 5 cylinders off, it's a V10. You get the idea. And I'll catch you all next time. Goodbye.